Everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to share with you guys some updates on products that I've been testing out for a while, and I think I have more or less my final impressions of. So I'll do a full face of those products inspired by the latest Met Gala. I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing a ton of content about this year's looks. The theme was Sleeping Beauties, the Garden of Time, and it got me thinking about what kind of look I would wear if I were hypothetically going to this sort of event with that kind of theme. So I have on today a dress that's kind of the closest that I could get at least to something that is on theme, and I'll try to put together a look that sort of captures the garden vibe as well. So if you're interested in learning about my updated impressions of these products or how I'm getting today's look, then just stick around. So zooming you guys in, let's start with brows. So this is the Rare Beauty Clear Brow Gel, and this has been a really game-changing product for me. So I'm someone who normally goes in with brow pencil and then a tinted brow gel. I normally don't use clear brow gels because they kind of just do nothing for me. I have pretty stubborn brow hairs. I don't actually mind the way they typically point, but if I want them to point in any different direction, then that's kind of a lost cause normally. But this product actually amazingly does move them and hold them in place. And so I've been kind of experimenting as a result with more of a feather brow look. As you guys can see, it actually does move my hairs, which is kind of amazing in my experience. Like, this is more than any other previous brow gel has ever done for me. So I'm starting today's look out with this because I do find with this product it's good to let it fully set down before you go in with any brow pencil. And at least for me, I don't like how it looks just by itself. I do like having some brow pencil to fill in the gaps afterward. So that's why we're starting with this. But it's been really incredible because I never thought I could do this sort of feather brow trend, but here we are. I feel like it actually does work. And I'm not someone who's very good at doing my brows per se, so I still feel like I haven't fully figured out how to get them to look the way I want them to. But that's more of a user error thing. Like, I don't really know the direction to put them in and how to fill them in such that they look sort of the way I want. But at least in terms of just this product doing what it's supposed to do, it definitely has been. And so that's been really fun because it's sort of opened up a new realm of possibilities for me, even though I think most days I would just go in with my normal brow routine, which is just kind of easier for me. But as you guys can see, they are very much kind of slicked in place. They're not going anywhere. And right now they definitely feel a little bit wet, but if I give them plenty of time to set, then they will stay in place. So there we go. If you guys have any tips in terms of feather brows, please let me know. I sort of have not put them straight up because I find, at least for my hairs, that kind of looks a little bit too wild. I kind of put them at a 45-degree angle, but they definitely look different than normal. So for complexion today, I'm going in with Surratt. I picked these up in the latest Beautylish gift card event, and these are complexion products I've been eyeing for a very long time. Michelle Wong has raved about these, so I've had these on my wish list for quite a while. And if you guys watched my first video with these, just trying them out, I had a pretty good first impressions. Since then, I would say that it's kind of been a mixed bag. I sort of have a love-hate relationship with these products right now. So let's start out first with the foundation. So this is the bottle. It is much more luxe than it looks online. It kind of looks like a soy sauce bottle to me online. Like, the picture just looks like this, which, you know, since you don't really have it to scale, to me this sort of just looked like a sauce bottle. But this is quite heavy. It does have multi-chrome packaging, so packaging-wise, it's a lot nicer than I anticipated. Now, what I haven't been liking, though, is this packaging is not very easy to use. So basically, you have this kind of button on the back that you can press to release the product. And so it's kind of finicky in my experience. Like, you sort of have to really press it for a while and, oh. Okay, well, today it's going on well. I guess it's a pretty warm day today, so that actually released a decent amount of product. Normally, though, I have more of a problem with this. If it's kind of a cold day, I find that I have to really hold that down, kind of click it multiple times to really get the product out, sort of shake it up and such. But Okay, today it was fine. So I'm going to just first put on this side of my face to show you guys. This is shade 4, which I think is really good for the winter time for me. As we're transitioning to spring, I feel like this is going to be a little bit too light for me. So this might actually be one of the last times this season that I wear this product. As you can see, it's a pretty good shade match for most of my face, but it's a little bit light for my forehead. So here's just one layer on the face. And this is a new issue. I don't know if you guys can see, but it's really pilling up my sunscreen. Can you guys see that line over here? Okay, I actually was not going to talk about that because that's never happened before, but that's unfortunate. It's, really pilling up my sunscreen quite a bit. Ew. Okay, so that was not one of the original reasons I hate this foundation, but let's add that to the list of reasons. So you can see with it on half of my face right now that it's a pretty light to medium coverage. So the foundation leaves a very natural finish. It's not super dewy, but it's also not matte at all. I am a little bit sweaty and greasier today than normal just because I'm filming this in the late afternoon, and also it's a really hot day where I live, so that's why I have my hair up. But I find normally with this foundation that it really doesn't work very well with powder. It tends to look really cakey the moment I powder it. Like, it looks beautiful before I powder it, but the moment powder hits it, it just sort of clumps up in certain areas and sticks to dry patches and is not looking good. I do have normal to dry skin, so if you have oilier skin, that might not be an issue. But for me with this foundation, I've found that I do need to just leave it unset usually. We'll see how it goes today because, like I said, the conditions are a little bit different than they have been. But in every previous time I've used this, that's been an issue. The moment powder hits it, it's not a happy camper. But let's go ahead today and put some on the rest of my face. Okay, this is more kind of like the typical experience that I was talking about. You sort of press and hold, and it takes a very long time for the product to come out. You do sort of have to shake it a little bit and give it a moment for the stopper to... Okay, yeah, so this shows what I mean in terms of oftentimes I do really struggle to get that much product out of this. And this is also a very small bottle considering it's not a super high coverage product. So that means that I think if you were using this all the time, it would run out pretty quickly. Now, I do really love the finish of this foundation, so that's the kind of love side of this. I think if I don't powder it and just leave it to set on its own, it does look really nice. Very nice and natural. It reminds me a lot of the Cocoa Moisture Foundation, sort of a mix between that and the Aqua Foundation. It's less moisturizing than the Moisture Foundation. That one I definitely need a set. This one doesn't really like to be set. It kind of sets on its own. So if you're someone who normally doesn't wear powder anyway, that might be a good thing. I do normally like to powder my face. I find it just makes everything else glide on a lot more smoothly. So that's been kind of the tricky thing with this. I have to forego powder and sort of really let it set and hope that the rest of my products go on seamlessly. So now let's get into the concealer. So this is in similarly multi-chrome packaging. It has this tip that is spongy, and then you click it up and the product comes out that way. This is in shade 3, which I find is pretty light for me. In hindsight, I probably would have gotten a deeper shade just because this is really good for brightening up the under eye for my light medium complexion, but it's not great for the rest of my face where I want some concealing. And when I do use this foundation, I find that concealer is quite important because the foundation doesn't really provide a whole lot of coverage. This concealer, though, does provide a ton of coverage. So what I like about this concealer is that it is very high coverage while not looking cakey, so that's really nice. What I don't like about this concealer is similar to the foundation, it really hates powder for some reason. At least on my skin, it tends to look really dry and crackly the moment I add powder to it. And I've tried this with multiple powders, and that's always the case with this. In general, I find with both of these products, they don't necessarily play well with a lot of other products. Like the other day, I wore these same products with the Eldridge liquid highlighter, and it was having a really hard time. Like basically the complexion kept picking up, especially on my nose. It was just not sitting well. And as we can see today, it's not enjoying my skincare regimen for some reason. So that's been the tricky thing with these products. I think when I'm having a good day and they're not interacting with anything else, the finish is really beautiful, but I find most days with this product have not been a good day, unfortunately. So on the whole, at least right now, I wouldn't strongly recommend these. I think there's just a lot of other products in my collection that I find a lot easier to use. That said, if you do pick these up, I would highly recommend not powdering them, being kind of careful in terms of how you layer them and what you put underneath or on top of them. Try to find a combination that works and just stick with that combo. Don't be, switching around your products all the time. And if you do that, they do have a really gorgeous finish. They're just not the most versatile. So I went off camera to do my brows and put on some eye primer, and I actually realized that my eye primer also led to pilling over here. So I think actually the pilling that I'm seeing is just from my sunscreen. It's weird because it's never done this before, but this is the eye primer I use pretty much all the time. So the fact that it's causing this weird pilling thing right now leads me to believe that's just something about my sunscreen today, and like maybe how hot and sweaty it is leading it to interact with all products really poorly. So I'm not going to put that on the Surratt foundation today, since it didn't do that in the past. I actually thought about taking all of this off and starting over, but let's just keep plowing ahead. If anything, hopefully the pilling and stuff just kind of contributes to this whole Sleeping Beauty's theme. I mean, the idea of the exhibition this year at the Met is that they have these archival pieces that are too delicate to be worn and have to be displayed in glass cases. So if my makeup is peeling off my skin, hopefully that just kind of contributes to that vibe. So moving right along, let's go into eyeshadow. So I have two palettes to update you guys on today. So I have the YSL Mini Clutch palette in Stora Dolls, and then I have the Eldridge Sorcery palette. So here we have the YSL palette, really beautiful neutral color story. Side note, I was just dumping these little brushes out and this whole component fell out. So I guess this is refillable, but it doesn't seem like this is stuck in very well. So just one note on packaging. Other than that, this packaging is really beautiful, but for some reason, the eyeshadows are not very firmly secured in here. This is a palette I picked up to do just kind of very neutral, everyday looks. And I have to say, I've been enjoying this palette, but not for that purpose. I think it's actually really perfect for days like today where you're doing more of a smoky glam look. Because even though these three shades kind of look just very plain and pan, like they look matte, only this one is a true matte. These two actually pack a reasonable punch in terms of the shine they provide, and then this one is super shiny. So I actually reach for this more when I want sort of a cool toned smoky eye look, but the quality is really impeccable. Now, in terms of Sorcery, this is also not an everyday palette for me. I do sometimes dig into just this shade if I want just kind of a one and done, but mostly I'm going into this if I want more of a colorful look like today. And part of why I'm pairing these up is I really love this palette, but the one thing I don't love about it is this matte shade here. For me, it's okay, but it's just not the best in terms of blendability. Whereas all of the shimmers are impeccable. They're super beautiful, really easy to use. So let's build a look with these today. So I'm gonna start out with this palette and go in with a Wayne Goss number 17 brush into this shade, which you can see is very, very pigmented. It really picks up a lot, so I'm actually going to dab that off on a towel just so we don't get too much at once. And then I'm going to put this first on the outer portion of my eye. Again, super pigmented. What I love about this formula though is that it's very easy to blend out. It's a true luxury formulation, and so you don't have to be too careful about where you initially place it. You can always blend it out afterward. I'm going to do a bit of a halo eye today, so I'm putting it both on the inner and outer portion of my eyes. Fusing it on that inner portion as well. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. It's very, very quick and easy. I think this is a really nice blend of a creamy shade and sort of a more matte powder. What I find with the Lisa Eldridge one is that one's creamy but doesn't really diffuse very evenly. It tends to look very patchy on me unless I work hard at it. Whereas this shade, as you guys can tell, I'm not really spending that much time blending, but I feel like it actually sort of blends itself. So it's not like one of those really intimidating brown mattes that take forever to blend out. You can get a lot of depth, but it also blends super, super easily. So let's just start things out there. I'm going to continue building that up later in today's look. Now going into this palette, I'm going to first go into this green shade and sort of put this on the middle of the eye, just kind of all over that middle portion, just to sort of start creating this garden vibe. I'm not being too precious here because especially now that my makeup's peeling, I feel like I'm going to go with this sort of garden experiencing the ravages of time, so everything's going to be a little bit imperfect. And then going into this shade, which I think is the most beautiful shade in the palette, I'm going to put this along the center. This just adds really nice dimensionality. You can see these are super easy to apply. I do sometimes get fallout with them, but today actually so far so good, no fallout. And taking my Sonia G Soft Definer, I'm going into this shade and putting this on the inner corner for a little bit of light there. And now I'm going in with my Wayne Goss 19 brush, which is a bit smaller, back into the matte, because I want to sort of build this up a bit. So I'm keeping this sort of closer to the mobile lid. Alrighty, there we go. So this is a pretty quick and easy look, but I think definitely packs quite a punch. Now on the lower lash line, I'm going back into that soft definer with that brown matte, and I'm going to smudge that all over my eye bag. And I'm being quite generous with this because again, I originally wanted this to just be a very pretty look, but I think now this is kind of going into, yeah, we're gonna do more of the couture look for the Met Gala where, you know, the point is not really pretty. The point is to kind of make more of an artistic statement. And then on the lower lash line, I'm going to kind of do the same thing we have on top and put some of that green shade with my Sonia G Builder brush, just so the bottom matches the top. And then same thing with that other shade. So here we have the very intense eyeshadow look. Alrighty, so here we have the completed eye look. What do you guys think? As a side note, my nose was looking really bad because it was getting sweaty and dissolving the concealer, so I applied a little bit more concealer, but I feel like it's still not sticking to my nose very well. So again, not a huge fan of this product in terms of how well it works on my problem areas. Areas like my cheeks that don't have as much sweating going on are looking perfectly fine, but of course, I would prefer a concealer that can work everywhere in warm or cold conditions. Moving right along, the next product I wanted to update you guys on is the Hermes bronzer. I've been using this for quite a while now and really loving it. I actually have a forthcoming video just dedicated to this, so if you guys are interested in a deep dive in terms of the formula, the different shades in here, and comparison swatches, definitely let me know and I'll prioritize getting that video out. Before today, I'm just going to kind of quickly sweep this around my face just to kind of complete this look. Because this foundation is a little bit light for me, I'm first going to take this jumbo bronze brush from Sonia G and just kind of sweep this all over. Again, I would prefer to ideally powder this before I go on top with bronzer because I think, as you guys can see, that's not the best application. I feel like because the base is unset and also I'm kind of sweaty and it's super, super hot in this room right now, it's not looking the best, but normally with this bronzer, the application is super, super seamless. I think it's actually working remarkably well considering the circumstances. Let me actually go in with a smaller brush. So here we have the Sonia G large fan brush. And you can see this is a bit of a reddish tone bronzer. I got this in the shade Sahara, which is actually the third shade, which was kind of surprising to me. I thought for my skin tone, I would definitely be going for the second deepest, but I saw a lot of reviews that that one's really warm toned, and so that's why I wanted to go in with this shade. And I'm quite pleased with it. I think that it's not too pigmented, even though it's one of the deeper shades. As you guys can see, it's quite buildable. So if you like red toned bronzers, this is a really good option in my opinion. And then for the nose, I do want to go in with some bronzer there, but let me actually bring you guys close so you can hopefully see. The concealer is once again breaking up. I don't know if this will translate on camera, but it's like in little beads of pigment on my nose right now, which looks very unflattering. Oh man, this is not how I thought today's makeup look would go, but let's just keep plowing ahead. So let me try to add a little bit of bronzer here. This might not go very well because my nose is very sweaty and this concealer is not sticking, but let's just see. Yeah, definitely not the best bronzer application. I feel like I've ended up kind of picking up a lot of that concealer actually. But moving right along, let's get into blush. So I have two blushes to share with you guys today. One is the Haus Labs blush in Pomelo Peach. The other is the Rare Beauty blush in Joy. So this Haus Labs blush, I have to confess, I was quite disappointed in. So I really love the shade for this blush, but I actually considered returning it because I wasn't a huge fan of this formula. Basically, there's nothing really bad about this formula. It's a pretty good standard matte blush, but there's also really nothing particularly good about this. And in my collection where I have a ton of blushes, this really doesn't stand out formulation wise. I did end up deciding to keep this just because I really like the shade, and I think this actually goes on top of the Surratt foundation quite well because the foundation, when it's unset, has some luminosity that peeks through. But for this blush, I feel like it doesn't have the best application. Like, I don't know if you guys can see, it's not totally smooth, which especially for a matte blush, it's quite important that it has a smooth application because you can sort of see very clearly where the blush starts and stops otherwise. On top of that, I find the longevity for this blush isn't great if you do put it on a powdered base. So today with this unset base, it's probably going to be all right. But on most days, I do like to powder my base, and I find that this tends to just wear off throughout the course of the day, so I don't really see much blush afterward. But this shade is really, really beautiful. I did actually recently pick up the Suku Melting Powder Blush in the shade 3 because it's very similar to this, and I love that. It's definitely better, in my opinion, in terms of formulation. That is a discontinued product though, so if you are interested in this shade but in a better formula, I would highly suggest picking that up ASAP. I think I got it from Cult Beauty or Space NK. It was one of those British brands, but would highly, highly recommend that. Love that formula. It's my all-time favorite blush formula. And shade 3 is basically this very similar pinky coral shade. So next with the Rare Beauty blush, I'm going to just put some of this on top, sort of as a blush lighter. And that's how I like using this. So you can see this has a lot of luminosity. Comparing the two sides of my face, this side is now really glowy in comparison to this side. So I don't really love this as a blush by itself. I find that as someone who likes to be pretty generous with my blush, if I put this all over the cheek the way that I did with the Haus Labs, it's just a bit overwhelming. But just scattered on top, kind of like a blush lighter, I think it's really pretty. The shade Joy especially is really nice for the springtime because it has almost a little bit of a dual chromatic aspect to it. It's basically a peach that then has some gold shimmer, but I think it really adds some nice dimensionality to the face. but just would not recommend it as a standalone blush unless you really, really want something high shine. It's their highlighter formula, so it's very different from even a standard shimmer blush. So to finish this look, I have my Bond No. 9 lipstick. This is a product I think I only featured once in my channel in that same video where I first featured this YSL clutch. Speaking of which, if you want to see all of these shades in action, definitely check out that video. So this is by far the most expensive lipstick in my collection. It's over $100. So I very much bought this just because I was so curious about the formula. And I would say this is definitely not a necessity by any means. It's not such an outstanding formula that necessarily justifies the price. But that said, if you are someone who loves luxury makeup and you do appreciate very subtle differences in formula, I would recommend this for a splurge or for a gift. It is very luxurious packaging, very weighty and heavy. This is a remarkably comfortable lipstick considering how long lasting it is. So let me first just put this on my lips so you can see. It's pretty high pigment. So just with one swipe, you get full opacity. The finish of this is satin, and it is very comfortable on the lips. It's not like super juicy comfortable. So if you have very dry lips, this isn't gonna suddenly make them feel full of moisture. But as someone with very dry lips, I don't feel like I need to prep my lips before this. It's very comfortable just with this product directly. And what's very exceptional about this is it's so incredibly long lasting. It's not transfer proof, but it will last your whole day through eating, talking, anything like that. The longevity is better than any other formula that I've tried that has this really beautiful satin finish and is this comfortable. Now, I personally would not pick this up in a lot of different colors because most days I don't need that kind of longevity. But if you find a shade that you really like, I think this is a really good staple for days when you don't want to fuss around with your lipstick, you don't want something that's super matte, but you want that luxurious experience and you want something that doesn't need to be touched up throughout the day. Alrighty, so here we have the final makeup look. And here we have the overall completed look. So I have no idea how to do my hair, so this is sort of the best we're gonna get. Basically, I would say the overall vibe for this look is Sleeping Beauty who fell asleep in a timeless garden for 100 years and woke up with her hair and makeup not really looking on point. But I still had a lot of fun putting this on, even if everything is not quite to my normal standards. So zooming you guys out, overall I don't hate this look. I actually did another Met Gala inspired look before this. I'll put up a picture in case you guys are interested. For that one, I used my Pat McGrath Midnight Sun palette since I've been going through all of my Pat McGrath palettes to do some looks in preparation for my updated Pat McGrath rankings video. Definitely stay tuned if you guys are interested in that. In terms of the products today, overall, I do enjoy all of these products. That said, each of them do have certain things that I don't love about them. So hopefully this video was helpful in case any of you are interested in these products and want to know some of the pros and cons of each. Let me know if you guys like this format of videos, sort of a get ready with me plus updated review, or if there's a different way that you guys would prefer me to give you updated impressions. So that's it for today's video. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!